Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 102 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are unleashing the power of your Raspberry Pi Pico W. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee, poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Kepler kit for Raspberry Pi Pico W. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon, and you can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot simpler if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my solution to the homework assignment that I gave you in lesson number 101. But I must first ask, how many of you were successful? If you were successful, leave a comment down below. I am legend, double chest bump. And if you were not successful, leave a comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Okay, hopefully most of you guys were able to do it. And in the last 8 or 9 or 10 lessons, we've been learning to work with that state machine, and we've gotten pretty good at it, those state machines on the Raspberry Pi Pico W. But what the challenge is, that code is kind of tedious. It starts getting into the more advanced coding levels. And then if someone wanted to come in and just work with the servo and not want to learn the state machine, our code would be very, very complicated. So last week, what I showed you is all the heavy lifting and the hard stuff, excuse me, could be put in a class. We could create a MicroPython class, and then down in the main program, it's all very simple. We just create a servo object. We tell it what the pin is, and then to control the servo were very simple commands, which was just the object name dot set servo angle and then pass it an angle. So everything got really, really simple when we did that. Now, I don't want to develop this whole thing from scratch, so we are going to start where we left off last week, so I will get out of your way. Don't see any fishermen out there. We will keep our eyes open for our local fishermen friends. Looks like they might be not in our field of view today. And then what we are going to do is I'm going to want you to go to the most excellent www.toptechboy.com. And when you get there, you're going to use this little search bar, and you're going to search on something like control Raspberry Pi Pico state machines in a MicroPython class. That will bring you here. And then down here, we have these two little page icons, these happy little page icons. We click on it, it copies that code. Then we can come over here to a fresh new Thonny window, and we can paste the code. And this is where we left off last week. I want to edit this a little bit. We were playing around with trying to get something working on state machine 1, which is on PIO 0, and at the same time run on a different the other PIO block, which is PIO 1. And so that's why I think down here we were using servo 7 and servo 1. Well, we're just for simplicity just going to use servo 1 and servo 2. Servo 1 is going to be on pin 20, and the next servo, servo 2, is on pin 21 GPIO pins. And then when we come here, we'll just work with servo 1 and servo 2 and servo 1 and servo 2. And then you just need to hook my servo 1 up to pin 20 and my servo 2 up to pin 21. Now, if I'm going too fast for you, go back and watch some of the earlier videos because I did develop all this back then. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this just to make sure that the universe is in proper working order. And what you can see is we are independently controlling two servos. Okay, we are independently controlling two servos. We can come back over to our code view and we can look. All of the heavy work is done in this MicroPython class. If we look outside the class, all we have to do is create a servo object, name it whatever you want, and then call the class servo state and pass it the pin 20 for my servo 1, pin 2 for my servo 2. Now you can name these objects whatever you want, but then when you call them, you have to use that same name. So I create my servo 1, and then to set an angle, I just do my servo 1, the object, dot servo angle, which is the method that we have created up here. So that is all very, very simple. But now your homework assignment was to take all of this, and to create a library, to take all this to create a library. Well, to do that, to really make it nice, I'm going to move this import RP2, I'm going to cut that and I'm going to put it up here in the class. That way, the casual user doesn't even have to worry about what RP2 is. And same thing, I'm going to move this because all the interactions with the pin is done inside the class. Right here. Okay. Right here. Okay, and then we'll tab that over. So I'm even doing the imports inside of the class. Now, the one thing that it's not going to possibly quite know is down here when we do a set base. I need to get out of your way further, don't I? When we do this set base as pin, it's not going to know what pin is down here because that is a library that was imported in servo state. So I've got to tell it where to look for that. That's in servo state.pin. Now this method will know what that pin function is. And there's probably also here, I will need to tell it where that RP2 is, and that is servo state dot, like that. Okay, so now I import them here in servo state, and down in the methods, I point to them by saying, hey, servo state has an imported library called RP2, which then is going to have a method state machine. And then similarly over here, I've got to tell it that the .pin is a library that was imported by our class servo state. Now let's just make sure that by making that change, things still work. So I'll stop it and I'll run it again. Okay, boom. So you see, moving those things down is going to make everything a lot easier. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a library. And the way I'm going to do that, okay, I'm sorry. I'm easily distracted. We got a boat. Can we zoom in on this? Let's see if we can zoom in on him. Our friendly local fisherman. Wrong way. He's waiting patiently for his catch. Very good. Very good. Wish him well. I hope he gets a big catch today. We'll check in periodically on our fishermen. But I digress. Let me come back over to our code view. Now, what we want to do is this whole class, everything from here down to the end of the servo angle, that we want to save as a library. So I'm going to get rid of import time, and I'm going to start with class, and then I'm going to get rid of everything after this method that is in this class, and I'm going to save this. So now I'm going to save this as, and you can imagine, got to stop it first. I'm going to save it as Raspberry Pi Pico, and I'm going to save it as servo LIB, with LIB uppercase. So SERVO, lowercase, uppercase L, uppercase I, uppercase B, .py. Now, if you save the program in the same folder, if you save the library in the same folder that the program is in, it'll always look in its own folder and it'll always find it. Otherwise, I think you can create a folder, I think it's LIB or LIBS, and then it'll look for it there. But I just like to just put it in the main folder. Okay, so there it is. That's good. So now I'm going to save it. It sees one's already there, so I'm going to overwrite it. So now I have this library. Now, how do I use this? All right, how do I make this work? I'm going to create a new program, and I'm going to come, where is that? Give me just a second. I'm going to have a pretty simple program. Now, because the library is there, our users can use the library, and they're not going to have to know anything about state machines. They're just going to import time, and then from that library we just created, servo lib, when you import it, you don't put the .py. When you save the program, you do put the .py. I'm going to import servo state. Servo state was what? That was the name of the class. So now I import the class and I import everything along with it. Okay, so now I've got that imported. Now I'm going to create my servo. My servo 1 is equal to servo state, the class, and I'm going to pass it pin 20. Because that is where my first servo is connected. Now my servo 2 is going to be servo state, the class that I imported, and it's on pin 21. Now I have created my 2 servos. Now what do? I just say while true, when is true, true, true is always true. And now I don't have to calculate pulse widths. I don't have to do SM pushes and SM pulls and all that sort of stuff. What do I just do? For angle in range, I'm going to go from 0 to 180 in steps of 1. And then what am I going to do? I'm just going to say my servo 1 is going to be a .set angle, which was a method inside that class servo state. And then what do? I pass it the angle. All right. Now I want to move my servo 2 dot opposite. So on that, I'll set the angle to 180 minus the angle, like that. Okay. Could it really be that simple? Let's have it move smoothly back the other direction. So I'm going to do this again. And here I'm going to go from 180 to 0 in steps of -1. And these other two things should be the same. Now look how beautiful this code is. Your casual Python user knows how to create an object based on an imported class. That's very basic stuff. And then we just have the object dot the set angle. This is very, very straightforward, but will it work? Let's try it. Hold your breath. And denied. Set angle. My servo 1, my servo 2, dot set angle. Okay, set angle. Let's go back and look over here. I thought I called it set angle, but it is servo angle. Okay, you see it is servo angle is what I called it over here. So if I called it there in the library, I think I would rather call it set angle. So I'll just change it here in the library. Set angle. Now I'll need to save that. And now I'm calling set angle. Okay, hold your breath. Boom! Look at that. Okay, we got 2 servos going. Let's go to our cool view. What you can see, this one is the yellow trace. This one is the blue trace. And as the yellow trace is getting bigger, that was craziness there. That was craziness. Let's come back over here. Hopefully you guys saw. I want to go -1 there. Now let's come back over to our cool view and let's run it. And boom. Now, as the left, when the yellow trace is getting bigger, the blue trace is getting smaller. Okay, do you see that up on the oscilloscope? Okay, that as one is getting bigger, the other is getting smaller because one is ramping up in angle as the other one is ramping down in angle. What are you doing? Okay, my servo on the right is almost getting a little glitchy. I've been using it so much that it's getting a little worn out. I really need to replace that servo. Sometimes it hangs. Just take it in. Just take it in. Okay, so what have I taught you here? I've taught you how to take something very complicated, like you're really getting to be kind of like an advanced programmer here, is you can interact with a state machine and as you can build MicroPython classes. But what can we do? It's not just that we can do complicated things. We can wrap that into a class and make a library out of it. And this doesn't need to be open. I guess I should show you that. Let me stop this. The library doesn't need to be open. Excuse me. Still recovering from that little nasty viral infection, respiratory infection that I had. So now let's run it. And yeah, you see it's working. What's beautiful, the code here is very, very simple. So I've shown you how to do very advanced programming, wrap it in a class, and then make a library. Now we talk about making this available to, simple user, beginner users, intermediate users, but what else? Now later, if I want to do a servo and I haven't done state machines in a while, I don't want to have to go remember every single thing about state machines. What I can do is I can just go in and load the library that I had done before. Okay, let's come back over here. Man, where are our fishermen? It's kind of not a lot going on out there on the river today. Where did that guy go? This has been a very short lesson. We'll just see if we can take a second and find anything interesting. If I turn this camera all the way around here, you can't see it. I was hoping to show you something. This is my banana trees. Back to the river. We've gone all the way around. There's the fisherman. He was hiding behind the tree. We'll come back over here. There he is. Let's see how he's doing. It's kind of hard to tell if he's really catching very much or not. But you can see that he's holding his line. There he is. Okay. I can also show you my front yard. Let's see if we got any activity going on in my front yard. No. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anybody really working in the front yard. So not a lot to see today. Okay, so what we have done today is we have learned how to do some complicated stuff. There's the front yard. You can see that we're irrigating the corn patch. We just planted our corn and we're now irrigating it. Got some activity back there in the back, but hopefully that'll grow up into a nice corn crop for us this year. As I mentioned before, most of what we eat here, we grow ourselves and we raise rabbits and chickens and all kinds of stuff. So most of what we eat, we grow on this compound. Okay, guys, I hope I have not made you weary with all of these lessons. I hope I have not made you weary with all of these more advanced lessons. But really, I don't want you to just be people that are copying and pasting other people's code. I want you to really develop these more in-depth skills, and particularly you high school students that might be juniors or seniors thinking about going into engineering, you really want to learn this more advanced stuff. So when you get to college, you've seen it before and you can just clean up. And so hopefully you guys understand what I am trying to do. Okay, so we are going to kind of wrap up. Excuse me. I promise I'm okay. It's just as you're getting over, a little bit of a respiratory infection, it takes a week or two before you're, speaking clearly again. So appreciate your patience with my throat clearing and my little bit of coughing going on here. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this series where we've been working on the servos as an example of state machines. If you're not going to hate me for this, I hope to work with the state machine some more and find another good component that would really benefit from programming it with the state machine. So I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this if you guys don't mind. Okay, I hope you are enjoying taking these classes as much as I am making them. As always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are standing with me on Patreon. On these deep dive lessons, there's a much smaller audience for them. So I have thousands of views instead of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. And so the only thing that allows me to make these more complicated, what is going on there? I'm sorry. I gotta see if I can identify what all this is going on. I don't know if you can hear the dogs barking. Let's see if we can find the dogs. Oh, there they are. Okay, there's my dogs. So when I bought this property, I left a very small footpath that was on my property, but I put it outside the fence so the locals could still make it down to the river. Wanted to do a nice thing, but sometimes when they're walking down the footpath, they like to kind of torment my dogs. And so that's what they're doing there. The dogs are barking at someone on the footpath. There's Miss, who is that? Miss Anna is in the bananas. What is she doing? She probably knows I'm making a video and she's probably out there trying to get the dogs to shut up. Yep, there she goes. She has the main offender and returning him to home base. Let's see if we can see her emerge. There she is. That's our boar bull. And that's the lovely Miss Nana. This is one awesome guard dog. That's Dutch. And that's the lovely Miss Nana. Okay. Man, I have digressed today, haven't I? Okay. Appreciate you Patreon supporters. I've got to have that support if I'm going to continue doing these in-depth lessons. Thank you. You can also help me by giving me a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure that you ring that bell so you'll get notification when future lessons drop. And most importantly, share this video with other people because the world needs more people doing coding and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.